All right. Good afternoon, morning, or evening, everyone. I'm Teacher Andrew, and today we're going to be looking at how to model and use the terrain editor in Roblox Studio. So we're going to be diving right in. We're going to be seeing what we can create together on this stream. So first thing to do is go ahead and open up Roblox Studio. And then as far as where to start when you're modeling or when you're working with terrain, any of these templates would work. Maybe not some of the more complicated ones like Galactic Speedway or the Move It Simulator, because there's lots of other moving parts there. But any of the basic ones here, you can get a lot of inspiration from just looking at how some of these templates are put together. For example, if we go into the Western template, we can poke around in here and we can kind of get an idea of how they might put together a horse. For example, you want to think of general shapes for things. And then because Roblox uses these simple shapes, blocks, spheres, wedges, and cylinders, you want to kind of simplify your big idea down into something small that'll work together with these parts. And I mean, looking at this carriage, you can obviously get a lot of stuff. I'm sorry, my head is in the way of this wonderful, wonderful horse. All right, there you go. Look at that. Look at that horse. How majestic. You too can build wonderful creatures using cylinders. So as I was saying, you can do a lot with these simple shapes. So that's what we're going to be working on today. We're going to see what we can build. But we can also get inspiration for just simple furniture here. We can see that they've got a bed, and what's interesting about this bed is they're doing something here that I'm not sure how they did. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the bed if I can. I might have to go into the workspace and find this building. That's interesting. For some reason, it's not letting me select this building. Town. Oh, there we go. It's in town. This is the hotel. So let's find the hotel. Here we go. Bunk bed. Let's find this bunk bed. Maybe I can bring this bunk bed outside of the hotel if I drag it out of the hierarchy here into the workspace. There it is. All right, now we've got our bunk bed. Let's take it out and I'm curious because they have these rounded pillows. And I'm wondering how they put that together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to examine this object. We're going to pull it apart piece by piece and see how they did it. This is one of the things that is super useful in the templates. So it looks like the covers have a rounded edge on them. And I bet that these are using an advanced method called a union. They are. Okay, so this is actually made of several parts. So we're getting ahead of ourselves here a little bit, but as you can see, you can use the simple shapes that Roblox has available and create more complicated models using them. So let's start from the beginning. Let's see if we can work our way up to this. I'm going to put that back. Look at that skybox. That's amazing. It's been a while since I've looked at this template. Oh, there's lots of terrain stuff here that they're doing too. Okay, let's jump out of this. Let's get into our own level. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new level. Let's exit out of this one, just so we don't have too many versions of Roblox Studio open. There we go. This is just the basic template. This is perfect for what we're going to be doing first. We're going to be just building some basic furniture right now. So I'm just going to create a part. I'm going to position the part into our nice convenient grid here. I'm going to pull it down so it's going to be just one stud wide. And let's make it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 studs tall. Can always go down here to the size. Oh, you can use the size property here to check your dimensions. So this is 3.5 tall. Let's make this 4 tall. There we go. Perfect. All right, I'm gonna duplicate that. I'm gonna use the clipboard here to duplicate. I'm gonna select move it out, duplicate, move it out, duplicate, move it out. There we go. Now we've got legs for our chair. Now I'm gonna take one of the legs. I'm gonna use the keyboard shortcut Control D to duplicate it. I'm gonna smush it down. I just used one of my own keyboard shortcuts to select the scale tool there, so I didn't have to click on it, but you can click on it. Okay, now we have a stool. So at this point, our chair is coming together, but we're missing the back of the chair. So let's see if we can do that. I'm gonna just take 2 of these legs, shift click to select multiple objects at a time, duplicate it, move it upwards. All right. And then let's take the seat, duplicate that, move it up, scale it down a little bit. There we go. All right, so we got a nice chair. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to, just for future reference, I'm going to name some of these parts. Leg. Because when you start modeling and when you start building things in Roblox, you're going to end up with hundreds and hundreds of tiny parts, and it can be kind of a nightmare sometimes to find a specific part if you want to make a change to a model. So taking a little bit of time now when you first start building something to go in and change the names of things, that it can save you so much time later. Seat. Say back piece. Back piece. And back top. Okay, so this chair is looking kind of boring though. It's a little bit plasticky, I think. So let's go ahead and go in here. I'm going to change the material to be. Let's make it a wooden chair. And let's make it kind of... No, that's way too orange. Let's do like a brown. That's kind of nice. Then I'm going to make the seat of the chair more brown. There we go. All right. Here we go. Now, I don't know if you guys can notice it, but as I turn the camera, you might notice there's a bit of a flicker on the texture there. This is something really interesting. This is called Z-fighting. It's a graphics programming term. Basically what's happening is you have 2 surfaces that are on top of each other, exactly in the same position, and they are fighting with each other to be the one that is rendered onto the screen, the one that the computer chooses to put on top. So to prevent this from happening, the best thing to do is to take your part and just scale it down so it doesn't overlap with anything else. We don't have to worry about Z-fighting on the inside of objects because technically these 2 surfaces are exactly on top of each other. But we can't see the surface there, so it doesn't really matter. But this chair's looking pretty good. Now, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select the whole thing. I'm going to right click and I'm going to group it together and I'm going to call this a chair. Perfect. Now, very important step. We got to see how this looks relative to a player. And as you can see, this is a chair for giants, and I've made my classic mistake. I forgot to anchor anything, so it just falls apart. Definitely anchor everything inside of your models. Very important. You don't want to end up with a chair that falls apart as soon as you sit down. But as you can see, this is a little bit large. This chair is way bigger than it needs to be, especially if I'm going to sit down in it. So what I'll do is I'm going to go in here, we're going to go to, I'm sorry, we can just scale the whole thing. What am I talking about? Bop, 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 bop. There we go. All right, I think that should be more human-sized. Let's jump in and test it out. Okay, this is much more reasonable. Climbing into the chair. That reminds me, ladders. We'll get to that next. I'll show you guys how to build a ladder. It's way simpler than you might think. Because I know that when I was first learning Roblox, I thought that ladders would be super complicated. That I'd have to make a script and everything, but you don't need to do any of that. But a chair isn't quite complete if you can't sit down in it. So one of the things you can do to a chair to make it so that you can sit is you can go into the model, and I'm going to add a seat to our seat. I think I might have accidentally called it seat. So there's a part here that can become part of our chair. Oops. Let's ungroup this real quick so it's a little bit easier to work with. Ungroup. So this part here, this big sort of blue part, this is a seat. So I'm going to go ahead and shrink it down so it kind of is on top of our chair. We've gotten to the point where this is kind of too small for our model. Can I scale this whole thing up a little bit? And scale the whole thing up. I want the seat to be on top of the, I guess, the cushion. You can call this a cushion. I want this to be on top of that. It's not quite perfect, you know? Hold on. Let's make this chair nice and evenly sized. I'm gonna go into the workspace. Oh, I don't know if I can scale all of them that way. Let's make this so that one of the legs is roughly one piece, or one stud. That's what they're called. All right, it's a little bit better. Not quite though. Kind of wish I hadn't scaled this down as much as I did. Let's see if I can fit the cushion on there now. Okay, I'm going to go into modeling. I'm going to turn off the snap to grid so I can move it freely. There we go. So if you end up in a situation like this where you can't line something up perfectly on the grid, then you can click on these two buttons here, rotate and move. This will this is where you can control how like what grid it's snapping to. Is it snapping to half studs? Is it snapping to full studs? You 10 at a time. You can do the same thing with rotation if you want to too. Let's go ahead and see. Is this going to clip into that? It will, but I don't think that's too much of an issue. Does that look okay from above? It does. All right, so now our chair is a little bit more chair-like. I'm going to go ahead and group this together again. I might have to scale it down again, but that's not a problem. Let's scale you down. Oh my gosh. Ooh. There we go. It's a little bit too small. There we go. All right, now I'm going to run it, and we're going to be able to sit in this chair. Seats are super useful parts. You can just add them to anything, and you will sit in them. But it is also important to know that they're anchored. That's interesting. And that they're facing the right direction, because they do have a forward direction. So couple discoveries here with our seat. One is that for one reason or another, it's not anchored, and also it's not facing the right direction. So let me rotate this. I'm going to snap it by degrees because I do want it to snap now. And we need to move it as if we're turning in an office chair. So that's going to be the y-axis. Up, 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 up. There we go. Okay. Let's take it for a spin. Let's see if this chair is fully operational. Hey, all right, cool. All right, I can take a load off now. This is great. So, we've made our first chair. We've made a model. What do I do with it now? How do I use this in my games? Well, the way that we can, what we want to do is we want to save this to our toolbox so that we can use this in other projects whenever we need to. So let's go ahead and take this model. Let's name it chair. You can even make sets of things and save them all together into a model and then publish that to Roblox and put that in your toolbox too. Right click. Save to Roblox. It's a chair. Let's name this specifically. This chair is, let's name this Jimbo's chair. It's Jimbo's favorite chair. Jimbo's favorite chair. Created by me. Genre Wild West. I'm not going to let anyone copy this or comment on it. Let's go ahead and submit it. Let's see if Roblox approves. Takes a bit. Perfect. All right, Jimbo's chair is on our toolbox now. So if I go into creations, Jimbo's chair is here. I can drag it in to any Roblox game that I'm working on in Roblox Studio. And there we go. I can even take our strange house, which is just a house I built. And I can, let's add some of Jimbo's chairs into there, you know, just in case you need somewhere to sit in this weird, like, barn. I don't even know what this is. Oh my gosh. I just want to put the chairs down. There we go. This actually brings up another handy tool. So in this situation, I want to position stuff inside the house, but it can get a little bit annoying with the roof in the way. So one thing you can do is there is a way of going in here, and I can actually hide this. Let me find where though. Do I have to go into view? I'm just remembering that I can do this. Let me see if I can find it. There is a way of hiding things. So I don't have to see them while I'm editing. Oh, is this it? Quick open. No, that's not it. I'll find it later. Let's continue on. So, if you don't know how to hide things, like apparently me, you can always move it out of the way. So you can easily move things around inside your house without dealing with having a large part in the way. But so far we've only used the basic modeling tools. We've just used what we already know. We've used how to move things, how to scale things, and how to group things together, change their materials and their colors. But if we're going to get into modeling in Roblox, we should get into the more advanced stuff. So let's take a look at the modeling tab here, because we haven't talked a whole lot about this modeling tab. So in here, it's right next to the home tab. It gives us a whole different set of options compared to the home tab. In the modeling tab, it gives us our 4 basic ways of moving things around, plus one extra called transform. Transform is just a more precise way of moving things. It gives me this grid so I can see how many studs something has precisely. If I scale this down using hold on, let me do this with a regular part. There we go. If I scale this part, it'll tell me how large it is while I'm scaling it. So this is an extremely useful tool if you're making something that needs to be a precise size. And it's kind of all three of the main basic movement and object editing tools all put together into one. So transform, super useful. Like I said before, there's also these options here that let you snap to a grid and snap to a rotation, so that when you're building something, things are pretty consistent. You don't end up with a whole lot of decimals, things that aren't quite the right size. You can also turn collisions off this way. So say, for example, if I wanted to move this box into, say if I wanted to move into this box, I can turn collisions on or off here. You can also do that in the home tab as well. And I can also join surfaces. This is a good way of kind of combining parts together. I'm going to be showing you a more advanced way here, though. We've also got our alignment tools here, and then gives us a nice tooltip for that. We have our normal part, material, color, and surface options. And then we can group things, lock things in place. So if I lock something, I can't select it in the editor. So if I want to select everything in the level right now, using the select tool, I can't select that block. This is good if you want to build walls for your level that you don't want to be able to move out of the way while you're editing things. Let's once it's locked, you do have to go into the hierarchy in the Explorer tab, select it from there, and then unlock it. There we go. Pop, unlocked. Okay, so now we're getting into the more, and anchor, very important. Don't forget about it like I do all the time. These three buttons here, union, negate, and separate. This is how you can build things that are more complicated in shape, like we saw with that bed in the Western game a few minutes ago. This is where Roblox modeling gets complicated. So, in a good way. Let's see if I can build something similar. I'm going to make sort of a rounded box. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with this this cube here, and then I'm rectangle. It's not rectangle. It's not cube. What am I talking about? It's not perfectly sized. Let's go in here. Let's change this to be a let's change it to be a cylinder, I think. That's what we want. So I'm looking for, there it is. So there's this shape option here on the part. If you already have a part and you want to change its shape, use this. It's a cylinder now. Now the cylinder has a rounded edge. I'm going to use that in combination with this box. Scale it down. There we go. Now we can see that it's not quite perfect. I want the edge of the I want this thing to be the exact same height. Let's turn collisions off. It's gonna let me do that. You know I can use the move tool to do it. Let's do that. Let's scale it again. There we go. Okay. Now I'm going to scale it out this way. Oops. Exactly the same size. Let's move it in. There we go. It looks pretty good. But these are still two separate parts. I think what we want to do is combine these together to make these into one part. So I'm going to select it, and then I'm going to union it together. Now it's one part. I can't select the cylinder that's inside of this until I click the separate, or sorry, until I click the negate. No, separate was correct. Until I click the separate button. Separate undoes union. Negate does something else though. I'm going to reunion this together. I'm going to create a new cylinder. I'm going to make it round. Like that, up and down. Let's make this a little bit larger though. There we go. Perfect. Let's make this the same width as that box, just for consistency. Okay, so what if I want to punch a hole in this part? How do I do that? We use the negate tool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this a negative part. A negative part isn't a part that we're able to see in the game when it runs, but we can see it in the editor. Basically what this negative part does is it will carve out space in other parts. So if I take a negative part and another part that I've unioned together, for example, I can combine this negative part with this union part. And there we go. Now we've got a hole right in the middle of our, I'm not entirely sure what we're building right now. We're just building an interesting shape. And I can even go into the game and we can take a look at this. So let's go ahead and run it and see what happens. Oh, look at that. And I can even jump inside of it and walk around. So this is something that I don't even know what this is. It's like a mailbox, but I put the hole in the wrong way. Hey, that gives me an idea. Let's make a mailbox. All right, let's do it. I'm gonna, but to do a mailbox, I'm gonna need to get rid of the giant hole I put in the side of it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna click on the union. I'm gonna go back to the modeling tab and I'm gonna click separate. Separate undoes union. Negate undoes separate undoes the union. So if I union them together, I can separate them using separate. I'm gonna take that out. Let's take this mailbox. Let's turn it on its front here. There we go. Let's make it like that. All right. So if I want to make this nice and even, I'm going to duplicate the whole mailbox. I'm going to scale it down very carefully. I'm going to use the transform tool. I'm going to click on this little nub here to move it down 1. There we go. And let's take the side and move it in 1. I think it's going by half studs actually, so it's half a stud. There we go. Okay, that's good. That's good enough for me. This this mailbox is gonna be pretty durable, I think. So I'm going to then take this part. I want to make sure it's the same length as the mailbox though. So let's go ahead and compare their length. There we are. All right. Let's move it out this way. Scale. Nope, nope. I might need to ununion this. There we go. Let's ununion it. Let's change its scale this way. There we go. Perfect. Let's move it down again. Let's reunion it together. Union. Now what we're going to do is we're going to make this a negative part. And then we're going to move it inside of our mailbox. Make sure that it is... It helps if it comes out a little bit from the... Oh no, I have to turn off our move by half studs here. Let's get it in the center as best we can. And select both of them. Negate. Oh. Union. There we go. Alright, so now we've got our mailbox. Is this large enough to walk into? Let's test. I can always make it large enough to walk into. Then we have a giant mailbox. Maybe it's not a mailbox that we're making. Let me know in the chat what I should make. There we go. We've got ourselves an interesting looking house. Let's go ahead and make this a proper mailbox. So I'm going to go ahead and scale it back down to a reasonable Roblox human size instead of being gigantic. There we go. Let's go ahead and use this part that we made already. Let's make it not a negative part. Let's scale it down. Let's get our move tool back. Okay. Let's move this up. Okay. Move it down. It's okay if it goes a little bit far because we can always make our mailbox a different height. And then let's go ahead and change its material to be something more metallic. Metal. Let's do a gray. There we go. This is a little bit dark, I think. Let's change its color as well. Ah, this reminds me. So one tricky thing about materials and coloring when you're using a unioned part is you actually might need to use make sure this box is checked here in the data section. Use part color because it's taking the properties of two different parts and combining them together into one. So depending on which part you select first, when you union them, it will able to use those color and material properties. So if you click use part color, you can then actually change the color to be what you want using the tools that we have here. I don't know. There we go. I don't think it should be made of wood though. You don't see a lot of wooden mailboxes. At least not where I live. Let's do, let's make this concrete. No, I'm just kidding. Let's do foil. Oh man, look at that. That's pretty cool looking. It's like a space mailbox. It's how the astronauts get their mail. I don't know, man. It's just a material. Let's just go with brick. Seems reasonable. Let's put a front on this. So I'm gonna go ahead and let's duplicate this mailbox again. I'm going to kind of only want this slice on the back. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to take another part. Let's go ahead and make a part block. Let's do this. There we go. That's about as much as I want for the back. I'm going to make this new part a negative part. And then I'm going to union these two together. Selecting this one first and then this one. Union. All right, there we go. I've got a nice... oh, it's got a little bit of a lip, but that's okay. Oh no, and I've also got some of it still in the ground. Hold on, let me fix that. Move that down a little bit. Oh, hold on. There we go. Let's scale it up a little bit more. There we go. Okay, now I'm gonna select them. Move them up. And union. And we have a door for our mailbox. You do kind of want to be fairly sparing if you're building a huge game with union and negate, just because it can be more taxing if you have a lot of complicated geometry. So lots of, the more surfaces there are, the harder your computer needs to work to render your project when you're running it, and especially if physics are involved. So if you want your game to run on as many devices as possible, you want to make your shapes and objects as simple as possible as far as how they're constructed and how the computer would need to display them. Let's go ahead and rotate this around. Hey, all right, look at that. Perfect. Let's click use part color and change the material type to be slate and our color to be red. There we go. This is a very strange mailbox, but I have a feeling that no one's going to be able to break it with a baseball bat, right? Okay, there we go. So we've got this here. Let's go ahead and make sure all of these are anchored. We're also going to add a little flag on the side to tell the mail carrier that we have something for them to pick up. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. Very simple. This is fine. We can just use this small flap on the side of the mailbox. Nah, it's not good enough. We gotta make this a flag. Like that. Let's duplicate that. Scale down this. Move it down like that. Move it down like that. There we go. Change the material of this guy to be something a little bit less noticeable. There we go. Let's group these two together. Group. Let's anchor them. And let's go ahead and name this flag. Mailbox flag to be specific. There we go. Let's attach it to the side of our mailbox. All right, this is kind of ridiculously large, so let's make that smaller. There we go. Let's group these together. This is the mailbox itself. And then we have our mailbox stand. Okay. And then we're going to take all of our parts, mailbox stand, using control click, you can select separate things in a list without selecting something in between, like this base plate. Right click, group together, and we're going to call this just Mailbox. Okay, let's go ahead and run it and see how it looks. Make sure we got... Oh, wow, this mailbox is bigger than the house. Is this a mailbox for giants or what? Okay, let's scale this down before we save it to our toolbox. So let's go ahead and scale it down. Ooh, there we go. That should be roughly human-sized. Now I'm gonna right-click on it. I'm gonna save it to save to file. Will save it to your computer. Still useful and good thing to do. Save to Roblox. Mailbox. A place to get mail. That's what a mailbox is. Genre. I'm gonna say town and city, and let's submit this to our toolbox. And we wait. There we go. All right, so far we've just modeled some things. We put them into our toolbox, and we've kind of taken a look at the options that we have to make more complicated shapes like this. So there are a ton of other things in the modeling tab that I haven't talked about yet, and we'll get into them another day. But just to give you a quick rundown of what they are, so if you want to experiment with them, you can. We have this constraint button. The constraints are how you can attach parts together in different ways. There's different types of joints, ball and socket joints. That's the type of joint you have on your elbow, or sorry, on your shoulder. We've got a hinge joint, which is the type you have on a door. A prismatic joint is it rotates to set positions. Cylinder joint, or a cylindrical thing, will rotate all around. Universal, rotate in all directions. Rope attaches two things and it behaves like a rope would. A rod attaches two things together and behaves as if you had attached them via rod. Spring acts like a spring. Torsion spring. Weld. There's a ton of different ones here. These are really powerful, and we'll get in. We could do a whole stream on them, and we probably will. There's also show welds. This is useful if you want to see where parts are attached together if you're not unioning them. And then we've also got the effects tab. So say you've got this mailbox, and say you get some mail that you don't like. Well, you know what? I think I'm going to make a part here. We're going to attach our fire to it because I attached it to something else. There we go. Okay, so now we've got a burning package. I'm just gonna go in here. Let's move this out of the way real quick. Where is it? There it is. Move this out of the way real quick. There we go. Return to sender. Oh no. Okay, well, anyways, I got distracted, sorry. The effects are super cool because you can do all sorts of different effects this way. This is how you'd make lava, by the way. If you wanted to give it sort of a heat effect, then there's fire, as you can see. There's also smoke. This is super useful if you want to kind of give an eerie feeling to your level. You can add in some smoke generators. These all have their own properties too. So like if I want this to go up, I can give it a rise velocity and it will shoot up in the air like that. I can also go in here and we can make sparkles. Apparently I did that on the spawn point. I can make a spawn point using the spawn button if you ever wanted to know how to do that. And there's some other options here having to do with services and scripts. And I think with that, now is a good time to call it for today. So we've covered quite a bit, and I hope that this has helped kind of shed some light on how you would build more complicated things in Roblox Studio. So let's see what you can build. I'd love to see it. And we'll see you next time.